everybody. All right. Well, we just lost all of our audience. So anyway.
Well, y'all come back now, you hear?
Welcome to Side One, Side B with Dave and Steve. And we're back today listening to more vinyl records that we've acquired over the years from before the times when vinyl was expensive and people actually wanted to buy it. Today, we'll be looking at an album that, much like the Diano episode we reviewed a few weeks ago, I bought out of curiosity because I couldn't find the CD of it. So the only option was buying it on vinyl. And fortunately, this one, I don't remember buying it, but it looks like I got it for $3, and that's really cool. So, Dave, what do you know about Southern rock?
I know a few of the highlights. I don't know like a lot of the albums per se, or like getting really into it. I know that it tended to have like 3 guitar players playing like really long songs, like, and at least one of them would be doing like slide guitar a lot of the time.
This is called foreshadowing.
Yeah. This isn't scripted at all. This is me just saying what I know about the genre without listening to it very much. I know that a lot of bands that play it don't really like the label because they don't really see what they're doing as any different from any other kind of rock, that they're just kind of playing rock as they see it, and they don't really see it as unique to their own geographic regions.
Molly Hatchet is much like that. They saw themselves as kind of a heavy metal band that's just from the South, not a Southern metal band or something. But
I know that Molly Hatchet has like fucking sick album art that looks like something off of the cover of like a pulpy sword and sorcery novel, which is rad.
Yeah, when I first started seeing Molly Hatchet albums, when I was going through record collections, well, I probably didn't think this because my dad is a Southern rock fan, so I grew up with it, so that's why I'm into it. So I think I knew Molly Hatchet was already Southern rock, but like looking at their album covers, I'm like, that looks like it should be on like a power metal album rather than a heavy Southern rock, Southern heavy metal band. Well, you know, they're a lot of things.
Yeah. And then I know that let's see, I know that the keyboard player from the Allman Brothers was married to Cher for a while, and it was funny.
Allman Brothers might be one I bring in later because I have their Live at East Fillmore album.
Nice. And then let's see, anything else I know? I know about the feud between Leonard Skinner and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young are not a Southern rock band, but I tend to side with Neil Young in that because of my own politics and because Neil Young is awesome.
Well, today we're taking a look at the Danny Joe Brown and the Danny Joe Brown Band self-titled album that I got for $3, which features a picture of him that Adam said looks like the guy from Monster Magnet.
He does, or he looks a little bit like Gibby Haynes from the Butthole Surfers. Not a Southern rock band, but a band from the South. They were a Texas band.
On this album is the current Molly Hatchet guitar player, because he ended up joining the band later on. Molly Hatchet now is one of those bands where all the original members are gone, and so I think the current members are either licensing the name or they bought it outright. So I guess they're a cover band, kind of. I mean, there is a connection since he was in the solo band. The Danny Joe Brown Band at this time was Danny Joe Brown, the Molly Hatchet singer, Bobby Ingram on guitar, slide, and vocals. He's their current guitar player, probably their main songwriter and all that. Steve Wheeler on guitar and slide, Kenny McVeigh on guitar. There's your 3 guitars. John Galvin on keyboards and vocals, Buzzy Meekins on bass and vocals, and Jimmy Glenn on drums. And they thank God and their families and their friends.
Wholesome. Yeah.
Oh, they thank their road crew. That's nice of them.
Oh, that is really nice of them.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, one of the things that we didn't talk about when we did the name of this band is the Talking Heads, is it included the crew in the liner notes, which I thought was cool. So
yeah.
It's cool to see more bands do that kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks like they thank the Outlaws and 38 Special and PV Electronics.
I know the Outlaws and 38 Special, and I know PV Electronics.
I really like the Outlaws. That's another really good Southern rock band. So yeah, I think that gives you an idea of what's going on with this album. But I kind of see this album. It's his solo album. I'm not sure why he left Molly Hatchet. I know he suffered from some health problems, but if you go and form a solo band right afterwards, that kind of, I mean, maybe he was able to tour less on that. I don't know, but he ended up going back after, I think, an album or two.
Yeah, maybe.
This was the only one he released.
I think if you form your own project with your own name on it, kind of a solo thing, you get more of the royalties. So maybe the idea was to tour less.
Yeah. So this album is pretty much just a Molly Hatchet album, which is fine. If this was a Molly Hatchet album, I would actually probably rate this as my favorite or second favorite.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you like it more than most of the actual Molly Hatchet albums.
Yeah. Which is kind of rare for a solo artist, I think. But it sounds like he just went out and got another awesome band and wrote basically the same kind of music. Like one of the songs on here, I think was so good in their opinion that they played it in Molly Hatchet when he rejoined. So that's also kind of a rare situation. So my friend Sabrina, once when I showed her the track on here called Edge of Sundown, she described it as deep fat fried blue oyster cult. So hopefully that gives you an idea about what we're about to put on here.
All right.
All right, here we go. And welcome back.
Don't you have any fucking whiskey in your house I need to have like some bourbon to sip on for this, I think.
I think I actually do.
Oh shit.
So that was side one. Got to say that's a pretty blistering side one.
Yeah, it was one of my criticism of a lot of bands that have three guitars is like, do you really need three guitars? And no, like this one did. I could tell all of them apart, and I liked it that oftentimes, like a lot of bands that are about, like doing like cool virtuoso stuff with guitars will kind of neglect the rhythm guitar. This did not. I liked the punchy chords. Punchy chords is what I really like in guitar music, and this had that in spades. This was good. I enjoyed it. There wasn't a song on the first side here that I didn't like. There wasn't a song that I thought dragged. I liked how, I don't know, narrative all the songs were. They seemed to be more about telling a story than conveying a particular mood or anything. Just like there were stories kind of with beginning, middle, and ends, or if not that, just like character pieces where it was focusing on a character. Musically, it did not sound like this at all, but like I could kind of see like dark, southern, ne'er-do-well outlaw types. Lyrically, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Nick Cave sometimes. So
interesting. I think you put it really well. They utilized everybody in the band. There's 7 people on the back here, and I think the presence of all 7 of them was very well felt.
Yeah. So you said it was singer, 3 guitars, keyboard, bass, and drums.
Yep,
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
For me, I think really one of the standout musicians on this is the keyboard player. He just went crazy on a couple of the tracks, especially the closer, Edge of Sundown.
Yeah, he did like the kind of like the atmospheric spooky stuff at the beginning of the song, and then just like full on fast-paced honky-tonk by the end.
This is really one of those albums. I bought it. I was not expecting much, and I put it on. And I'm like, how the what? Because a lot of times, a lot of solo albums. This is ironic that I'm saying this because I'm about to release a album where I did all the instruments, but but a lot of times, solo albums that were clearly put together because either the label just wanted to, and so they just put out what they wanted to, or they're like, oh, I got a solo deal, and they're like, they don't know what to do with it. Because I've heard a lot of artists put out albums where the music is really underwhelming, and it's just not up to the standards of their main band. And I don't know if that's they don't want to compete with their main band, so they don't get the better songs, or maybe it's the label gives you that solo option, but they don't give you as much production money as the main band. But this one very much sounds like a complete band, and they all got together and wrote songs.
Yeah, and like I don't mean this gothic in like the gothic sense, but like in like the literary tradition, like Southern Gothic, there's like the kind of dark atmosphericness, like the spookiness to all of it too, like the
It's a lot like listening to a Western.
Yeah. It's like that.
Like Black Sabbath is like listening to a scary movie. This is like listening to a Western in like a heavy metal kind of way.
Yeah. And then like that last song was like what? It was about a murderer, and it was about how cool it was that he's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of the keyboard player, I was looking up to see if he ended up doing anything after this album, because when you look up the Wikipedia page, none of them besides the singer has their own page. But it looks like the keyboard player actually ended up joining Molly Hatchet 2 years later and is still in the band today. So that's pretty cool.
Is Molly Hatchet kind of like one of those Ship of Theseus bands where, it's like where you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, if you replace enough of the original parts, is it still the same thing type of thing? Or
I haven't really listened to much of their current material. I've heard some of it. But yeah, it's absolutely like there's no original members. So it's really like seeing an official tribute act, but they are making new music. So, I guess it's probably better than the band not existing. So
yeah,
maybe it should be a thing where maybe a band passes on its banner to the next generation, because the people that are in the band now, I think, have been in the band as long as the original members at this point. So it's like they've earned their own legacy. So yeah, that's a weird one, but yeah, it's a lot like there's a few bands that have no original members, and this is one of them, and it's an interesting phenomenon.
That's vaguely related, but that reminds me, like one of my favorite bands, like art punk band, Para Ubu. They're down to like the lead singer is the only original member, and they have contingency plans based off of around how to continue the band if he dies, but to not let the public know that he died, just to kind of have a contingency so that like a couple years later they're like, oh yeah, he died. We're gonna keep going. Yeah,
we weekend at Bernie's him.
Yeah. They had a very detailed post about it, and then looking at it, it's like, that might actually work, and now I'm not sure if he's alive anymore.
I think I also, you said you really liked the Alamo.
Yeah, I liked the interplay of the guitars. I liked the chanting at the end. It was also one of the ones where I noticed just how punchy the rhythm guitar was pretty early on.
That was one where you can definitely see why these guys consider themselves heavy metal bands, because they were doing some like Judas Priest style harmonies on that song. Yeah, and it definitely belongs with the heavy metal of the period, because this came out in 81, and it, I think, does share some similarities with, let's say, like, I don't know, Judas Priest in a heaviness sense, because this was pretty heavy.
Yeah,
but at the same time, the southern aspect of it was very apparent. It definitely sounded like the southern rock genre. So I don't know how much bands actually oppose that. I don't. These guys specifically, I remember. Well, the Molly Hatchet guys anyway. They said they're influenced by bands like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, which you could definitely hear. But you can also hear the Allman Brothers influence, or even a lot of the country rock bands that were coming up at the time.
Yeah, you hear a good amount of country. You hear a lot of blues in this, like honky tonk.
Yeah, the first Molly Hatchet album was actually literally recorded on Leonard Skinner's gear. I don't know if they snuck him into this studio or what the deal was. Maybe it was cheaper. Maybe they were in the studio already, and it was just cheaper to use their gear really quick. But yeah, there's a connection there too. So
yeah, Sundance was also a really good opener. I liked that.
Yeah, it's got a really good swagger to it.
Yeah, and then Nobody Walks on Me, with like Go Out Swinging with the Defiant. With the Defiant song, yeah, it was just as a whole a really solid, easy to listen to album. It would be a fun thing to put on if we were like grilling or something like that too. Like good background music for grilling.
Yeah, it would be a really good song to grill to, and probably go shooting to.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, let's see how side B holds up. All right.
Sabrina was not wrong.
Yeah.
Deep Fat Fried, Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely hear that. I think, if not as strong as the first side, very close to similar. Not like.
Yeah, similar. Like it doesn't really lose momentum.
Edge of Sundown was the side 1 epic. I think you can say Gambler's Dream was the side 2 epic. Both for very different reasons.
Yeah.
Let's just go through the songs real quick. So, a Beggar Man, really like the lyrics on Beggar Man. I was kind of half expecting like an anti-homeless like thing, but you know that last line, it's like begging you for a buck. Why don't you just give it to him? It just might change his luck. I think it's just a really good way to sum up the homeless problem in general.
Yeah, just like a nice sympathy for the down and out, just like there isn't that much that separates us from the homeless. We're more likely to be homeless than rich. So
yeah, exactly. Run for Your Life was a very awesome song.
Yeah, I liked there are a couple songs like this, but I liked intensifying things with like the tempo to really kind of do a propelling momentum. I was surprised at how short the songs were, with the exception of Edge of Sundown from the first side. Just, when you have like a band like this with a ton of members and a lot of solos, generally you expect longer songs, but no, this was just a lot of really like cool, fast songs just with a lot going on.
They did a really good job of not overextending parts just because they could.
Yeah, nothing overstayed its welcome. It all just fit.
I think sometimes I think the biggest criticism I have of modern Iron Maiden is they have so many members and they don't really know when to stop.
Yeah, everyone gets a solo.
Yeah, so a lot of their songs just end up being like 10-minute epics, and they're putting out like double albums, and I don't know. God bless them for doing what they want, because I think Iron Maiden does what they want at this point in their careers. But sometimes it's a little taxing to listen to. Hear My Song, that was a really good one that looks like it was written by the bass player and a guest writer. That was a great song. Gambler's Dream, that had a really cool swagger, and it really kind of gave you this casino atmosphere, because it's about a guy going up to Chicago, and there's like a rich high roller there, and it looks like he gambles away all his money, and the guy gets it. So that's oddly satisfying. Yeah,
it seemed to be going more for like a Prohibition era speakeasy thing than like a Deep South thing, which was a cool change of pace for the setting.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point to bring up about this album. I was looking at the credits here, and it looks like the band participated quite a bit in the writing, and they're all kind of spread out on the song, so I think that probably contributed to the diversity. So they took what they had as far as talent and really, really extended it. The last song, Hit the Road, when I was listening to it, I was like, this could almost be a Motorhead song.
Yeah, and I also like it that a lot of these bands all have songs about traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, every other song on this is like, okay, but you are Southern rock. There's something Southern about this. Yeah, Hit the Road almost felt like, more like, it had some of the, like same kind of twang to it, but it was more like, it felt more like, like Motorhead covering The Train Kept a Rollin' type of thing.
Yeah, and, it almost reached speed metal territories. Yeah, I think that was a really great way to close the album. It was a really high energy song, and just we got, I think, two sides of just all killer material. I don't think there was any filler on this album.
Yeah, no, it was all like really like breakneck pace too, except for like the little piano intro at the beginning of Edge of Sundown, which I think made it like a good choice for the single too. Just like not the same energy, just kind of like a little variation, but yeah, just like a really cool fast song, like a really good cool fast album where you can just listen to it front to back without it really dragging, without skipping anything, if you are on like a CD or an MP3 rather than just listening through the whole record like we were. But yeah,
much like the album you brought in, we're recording on the same day we did the Clash album, much like that album. I think all bangers on this one.
Yeah, no real notes.
So this is kind of one of your first Southern rock experiences then. So how would you say you entered that world?
Yeah, it was cool. I was expecting the songs to be longer and kind of noodle, longer than they needed, which there's some Skynyrd and Allman Brothers songs that I like, but there's a few of them that I think, just kind of hit the okay, get on with it phase. And none of these did that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
even like in Edge of Sundown, when I think there's like two fake endings in there, and it's just like, ha, tricked you, motherfucker. But it's still interesting. Like not a lot of people can like pull that off.
It was a lean yet muscular album. I really liked it. And if this you said this is kind of typical for Molly Hatchet?
Yeah, their early releases especially. Flirtin' with Disaster, I think, comes very close to this album in terms of intensity. Their first one is a little more relaxed, and I think that's because they were using Leonard Skinner's gear. yeah, the stuff they're using on this album it definitely like has probably more in common with, I don't know, Metallica than Allman Brothers, you know, because the guitars on this album got really heavy at certain points.
Yeah, it got really heavy. It wasn't as like laid back as I thought it was going to be. It was just a really cool, intense album.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, I could hear 3 distinct guitar styles, and I think that's really cool because they all blended together really well on each song, and you don't get a band that gels that way that often. So their run was very short, but I'm glad that this album exists.
Yeah. Oh, so, another frame of reference I do have for Southern rock is there's a live Lou Reed album, probably his best known live solo album, called Rock and Roll Animal, where he was trying to get his like live band to kind of emulate like Allman Brothers style Southern rock. And so
we should listen to that.
We should. So like at some point we should get to that, but that was But it was, to me, that album's always been kind of weird because it was mostly tracks from Velvet Underground albums that he wanted to make into bigger hits because he thought they deserved to be, because they did. And so it's just like him doing like Velvet Underground songs as arena rock, and it's
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's weird. Some of them it works, some of them it doesn't. Like Sweet Drain, it works. White Light, White Heat, I don't think it does. But yeah, that we'll get to that at some point. But yeah,
it'll be fun. So yeah, Danny Joe Brown and the Danny Joe Brown Band. I don't know.
For a band named after the lead singer, it was surprisingly collaborative.
Right, really. Yeah. There's a lot of songwriting credits for everybody, including people that weren't in the band. So this guy really went out there and got probably some of the best musicians you can get. And then a few years later, brought some of them into Molly Hatchet. So
at what point did the last original member leave Molly Hatchet? What year?
So I want to say the last one left in, I want to say around 95. I probably don't have the exact year, but around that timeline. But later on, and they might have did this for just a sake of getting some legitimacy, but they got their original guitar player, Dave, I think his name is Lubeck. It starts with an H and then it's L. So yeah,
that's Welsh. Yeah, Klub.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So he was back in the band for a while, and I think actually played on one of the albums that they released with their Theseus lineup. But
cycling people back in is
yeah. But unfortunately, he passed away. A lot of guys in this band had health problems. Danny Joe Brown himself passed away in 2005. I think he had diabetes and all sorts of stuff. Part of the reason he left Molly Hatchet to do this project is because he was having health problems, and probably I'm assuming he was able to do this and tour less than Molly Hatchet was doing. Otherwise, it'd be kind of weird to leave for health reasons and then do the same touring schedule.
Yeah, start a band that sounds similar and tours the same. Yeah.
So yeah, a great album. It was one of those I went in blind because I think I found it in a bin. And wasn't expecting too much, and could possibly be the best Holly Matchett.
Holly Matchett.
Holly Matchett. The best Molly Hatchet album that Molly Hatchet didn't make. But since the guitar player and the keyboard player are in current Molly Hatchet, it's kind of retroactively becomes a Molly Hatchet album, doesn't it?
It's in the Molly Hatchet extended universe.
The MHCU.
Yes.
All right. So what are we doing next time, Dave?
Next time we are doing The Crackdown by Cabaret Voltaire. We're going to do an industrial band accidentally making not accidentally, but kind of intentionally, kind of accidentally making a slightly poppier album when their tape guy leaves. And so they have to rely a little more on synthesizers than weird tape loop experiments.
Well, that sounds fun. I think the next one I'm going to do is the Samson album, Shock Tactics, which is the album that Bruce Dickinson sang on. It's the band that he sang in before Iron Maiden. And this album was the last one he did with them before he left for Iron Maiden, and probably what I considered their best one. And it's interesting because I listened to both that Bruce sang on, Head Tactics and Head Tactics was the name of they mushed them together. But so I listened to Head On, which I don't think was very good. I'll just put it that way. But this one actually ended up being very interesting. They really stepped up on the songwriting, and all the band members sound great on this, but it really gives you a Bruce Dickinson was overqualified for this band vibe. So we got that to look forward to.
All right.
So that was Side One, Side B with Steve and Dave. I'm Steve.
I'm Dave. Catch you on the flip side.
Bye. Hey everybody, Future Steve here. Since we recorded this episode, we've made some slight changes, and we're actually going to be adding guests moving forward. We may still do some episodes where it's just the two of us, but we're going to try our best to bring a guest in on each one. So we're going to have the guitarist in our band, Sean, join us for 2 albums, and that will be Ace Frehley's 1978 solo album that was released under the Kiss banner, then the B-52's self-titled with him, and then we are also bringing in my former bandmate in Valley of Shadows, Clayton, and together we will be looking at the Samson record that I mentioned during this podcast and Big Black's Atomizer. We also completely failed to plug all of our shit, which is pretty simple. Just go to my website, killrockmusic.com. That's KILRAVOCK.com. And there you can find the Illiterates release, Nothing New, that Dave and I did together. You can find our other recording project, Lucid Fugue, our experimental band. You can find my past projects in Megaton, Valley of Shadows. And I did put a link to the Gong Farmer record, even though I wasn't on it. So if you want to listen to Dave's previous band, you can find it in there as well. We also completely failed to plug all of our shit, which is pretty simple. Just go to my website, killrockmusic.com. That's KILRAVOCK.com. And there you can find the Illiterates release, Nothing New, that Dave and I did together. Follow us on the web, on YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. I have also started us a subreddit, r/SideOneSideB, where I post links to our episodes, along with teasers of future episodes, like pictures of albums that we're going to cover, articles that are related to music that we might be covering, along with just some interesting music-related things that I find around Reddit. Thank you. Side One, Side B is a Floof Goof Studios production.